Part 2 of building the ultimate AI voice agent for my students. Today, we're going to be focusing on the clinic expert, answering frequently asked questions using Retrieval-Augmented Generation. So real quick, I'm just going to show you what that workflow actually looks like. And it looks like this. It's pretty crazy, right? But don't worry, I'm going to walk through this step by step, show you exactly how it works, and then I'll go and do node by node to really kind of tell you basically how you can implement this for yourself. So go ahead and set up your dual monitor and let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is obviously download n8n if you have not already. This program is called n8n. After that, you will need to go to my school community, go to YouTube prompts and templates, click on the post I'm going to create, and then download the file just by clicking it and hit download. Okay. Now, once you've done that, go and click the three dots here, click import from file, and then you'll be able to click on the thing that you just downloaded. Okay. So I've already did it, so I've already uploaded it here. Now, the way that we would set this up is, first of all, let's just go ahead and do a brief overview of what's happening here. So this is actually 3 workflows stuck together. Later on, I'll tell you exactly how to break them up into 3 different workflows, but I put them all in the same thing here just to make it very easy to see. Now, the first one is up here, okay? As you can see, the trigger for this starts with a VAPI webhook. Now, the goal here is to basically wait for the AI voice agent to send some information over. And then, depending on the tool, since in this case, we're going to call it the get user documents tool, then that's basically saying, okay, well, the client is asking for some information about the company. So we need to go ahead and query our database for that information. So that's going to go ahead to go to a RAG agent, and it's going to use an LLM or an AI basically to understand the query. And then it's going to tell it to query the vector store in order to see if that information actually exists in our company documents. And if it does, then it's going to use the retrieved documents and it's going to give the output back to the VAPI model. Okay. So that's the first one. Now, the second workflow is basically here where we're triggering it based on when a file is created or when a file is updated in Google Drive. And the point of this is basically so that we can update our company information with new information. So first of all, let's just say, for example, we create a new document in Google Drive. Then it's going to automatically set the file ID. It's automatically going to download the data and then enter the data into Supabase. Now, Supabase is just one of many providers of a vector database, but we're using Supabase because it's just extremely easy to use and they have a huge free tier, so you probably will never have to pay for this. So, and the same thing applies to when a file gets updated, it's going to set the file ID, and then if the file already exists in Supabase, then we'll just delete all of the old vectors and then re-upload all of the new information. So this just basically makes sure that all of the data is very clean and correct in Supabase. Finally, we have a workflow here at the bottom, which starts on a schedule trigger, which I've basically set to every 15 minutes. It's going to get the documents from Supabase, and it's also going to get the documents from Google Drive, and it's going to compare them to see that there are no additional files in Supabase compared to Google Drive. So let's give you a quick example. Let's say that there are 10 files in Supabase, but there are only 5 files in Google Drive. Well, that probably means that somebody deleted 5 files from Google Drive, and therefore we need to find those files and delete the ones that were deleted, and then leave the 5 that are still on there. So again, this is just more data integrity, making sure that what's in Google Drive is equivalent with what is in Supabase. So now let's go ahead and go through all of these steps just to make sure it's set up. And then I'll show you how it actually works. And then I'll go through node by node and explain how it works. So first of all, let's just go ahead and set up this Google Gemini chat model. So double click on there. It's red because you guys have probably not already set up your credential. I have, so it's going to finish itself, but going to click on create new credential. Now, once you've done that, it's going to ask for an API key. Now, your API key is just going to be, you're going to need to go to a website called Google AI Studio. So this is what Google AI Studio looks like. And here you can scroll up over here and click on Get API Key. Now, for me, I've already created an API key. And basically all that you would do is you would click on create API key. Perfect. And then you would click on here. And then I have created plenty of projects, but if you don't have a project, you might have to click. It should say something like create a Google Cloud project. So you just click on that and then you'll be able to create your API key. Okay. So once you select one of these, it'll just say create API key and it'll put it on the screen and you just copy it. So for example, I can just copy this right here. I don't want to click on it because it'll bring it up, but basically just copy it and then bring it over to n8n and you just paste it here. And once you've done that, you would hit save and then it would save. So I already have a bunch, so I'll just leave it. That's fine. And then for the model, we're going to choose Gemini 2.5 Flash Lite. Okay. Now the reason for that is it's extremely fast, but it's also extremely accurate. So this is the model that I found performs the best. That's perfect. And now that we've set that up, we can actually go over here. I believe this uses the same exact credential, so we don't have to do anything extra. So yeah, it does use the same exact credential, so that's perfect. And the model looks perfect, so it would just be text embedding. That's correct. Now that is completely done. All right, next we need to set up Google Drive. So go ahead and click on Google Drive. If you haven't set this up already, it's going to ask you to set up a credential. Now, I've already set up mine, but you just need to click on create new credential and set that up. I've already done a video on this, so go ahead and click on the video linked above to get that set up. It takes about 3 minutes. Cool. Now, once that is done, we need to click on folder from the list, and then we need to choose our folder. So the folder that I've created for this project is called Supabase. And basically, if you go to my Google Drive, you can see that I've created a folder called Supabase. And this is where I will go to basically create some documents and put some information there for my company information. Back to n8n, this looks completely set up. Now, same thing for this Google Drive node, double click in, set the credential to your correct one. And then from the list, it's going to be Supabase. Perfect. Now that is done. It looks like we have some more Google Drive nodes, so we'll just go ahead and finish them real quick. So Google Drive, choose your credential. This one's going to be, that's correct. I'm not going to change that. And then over here, Google Drive, same thing. And here it's asking for it from the list, and this is going to be Supabase. That looks good. So remember, you can hit save just to save your progress. So as you can see, it looks like everything is done except for these Supabase nodes. So that's saying that we need to set up Supabase. So go ahead and double click on this one. And here it's saying that we need to create a new credential. So try that. And here it's saying we need to find a host and a service role secret. So to get these, we're going to need to go to supabase.com. Supabase.com. This is what it's going to look like. And then you will just hit start your project or sign up or whatever. So since I've already signed up, I'm going to hit dashboard to log into mine. Perfect. Now I'm going to click on the settings gear over here for the project settings. And here it's going to show me API keys. So go ahead and click on API keys. And here, as you can see, it's telling me my service role. So you can actually go over here and click reveal, copy that, and then go back over to n8n and paste in the service role secret. Okay. All right. So now that we have our service role secret, all that there's left to get is the host URL. So go ahead and go back over to Supabase. Now from here, we need to click on data API on the left. And then as you can see, we have our URL right here. So go ahead and click copy. Go back over to n8n, paste. Then you can go ahead and hit save. And as you can see, it says connection tested successfully. Perfect. So now that that is done, we would just need to select our table name. Now, I should not have any table names yet because we haven't created the table. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that now. So go back over to Supabase. And here on the left side, we're going to see something called SQL editor. Click on that. Now, as you can see, there should be a place to paste some code. I'm going to give you the code right now. So you're going to have to get this from my school community. Just find the post and get it. It is going to be called Supabase SQL Editor Code. So open that up. And basically what this is saying is it's saying to download the extension. After that, it's going to create a table called knowledge base. And after that, it's going to create a function called match documents, which makes sense, right? Because we need to create a table that is going to contain our knowledge base. And then we're going to create a function that is going to be needed to find the documents. Perfect. So go ahead and click Control A, Control C, then go back over to Supabase and paste it into the code editor. Then go over here and click Run. Run this query. Success, no rows returned. That's perfect. So now in order to check that it created the table, click on Table Editor. As you can see, it created a table called knowledge base. So click on that. It says that it's unrestricted because we have RLS disabled. We can just enable it real quick. That's fine. Click enable. That just makes it a little bit more secure, but it doesn't really matter. Perfect. So now that that is set up, we have a table called knowledge base, and we also have our function that was called match documents. So we should go back to n8n and just make sure that's correct. So the table name is called knowledge base. Actually, let's make sure that updates. So I'm going to click out and then click back in to see if it updates. Yeah, there we go. So now we're going to click on knowledge base. Perfect. And then the query name is called match documents. So that's also good. That's done. Awesome. So go on to the next Supabase node, double click. Make sure that we're using the Supabase credential. Good. The table name, that's correct. And everything else is fine. Perfect. Now click on this one. Choose the correct credential. It's going to be from the list. We're going to choose knowledge base. And the query name is going to be match documents. That's correct. Cool. Now down here, click on this node. Choose the correct credential. The table name is going to be knowledge base. And that looks correct. Perfect. Finally, we're going to choose this last one. Credential. Table name is knowledge base. And that looks correct. All right, so now that our workflow is all set up, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to break it up into 3 different workflows. Now, the reason for this is because when we set the workflow to active, it needs to be actively listening to new information. If we have 3 different triggers on the same workflow, it's not going to work. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take this, then I'm going to cut it out. Well, I need to include that Google Drive node. So I'm going to hit Control X to cut it out. And I'm going to open a new workflow and paste it in. Perfect. And now I can just hit save and hit activate. Perfect. So now this is set up. Remember, this is going to be responsible for automatically triggering and finding the files that are basically mismatched in order to delete the vectors Supabase database. Now go back to n8n, and I'm going to need to get the second part of the workflow, which is down here. And this part of the workflow is responsible for automatically tracking changes that are being made to the Google Drive in order to update the company information into Supabase. So I'm going to hit Control C this time because it's actually sharing this node, so I don't want to get rid of that. So Control C, create a new workflow, Control V to paste, and that looks perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and click save and activate. Perfect. Now go back over to n8n, and now we're going to delete this part because we don't need it anymore. Perfect. And so now this is actually its own workflow as well. So we're going to go ahead and click active. So in order to test this, we need to go ahead and create some files in Google Drive. So I'm going to go over to Supabase, and now I'm going to click on new, and I'm going to create a new Google Doc. Here I'm going to name it I'm going to name it company information updated. Okay. And now I'm going to get the information from here, which I have made a note of. So go back over here, right here. Perfect. So this is just some basic stuff. It's company name, company purpose, and just some other stuff. Okay. So this is going to be the correct version. Now I'm going to go back over to Supabase, or no, go back over to Google Drive, and now I'm going to create a new file. And this file is going to be called company information outdated. Okay, and I'm going to paste that information back in, but I'm going to change it so that it's incorrect. So now that that is done, all that I need to do is I need to go back to the n8n workflow. And I need to basically see that it ran and automatically updated the Supabase database. So now we're going to go back to Supabase. And as you can see, it literally just updated before our eyes, right? So the first chunk is right here. It's called company name, Ajax Agent Systems. That's going to be the outdated version. And then this one is called company name, Apex Agent Systems. And that's going to be the updated version. And as you can see here, it has some metadata, such as the file ID. And this is going to be what is important for comparing and contrasting the files from Google Drive with Supabase in order to decide which one needs to get deleted. So now we have basically confirmed that this part of the workflow works perfectly. Now we need to go ahead and test the second part of the workflow, which is this part. Now this part is for deleting, and it only happens every 15 minutes. So in order to make sure that works, we might just have to hit execute step, but it's the same exact thing. So in order to test this, I'm going to go back over to Google Drive, and then I'm going to delete the file called company information outdated. So go ahead and go over here, click move to trash. Move to trash. Perfect. That just give it some time to load. That should be done. Now, if we go over to our workflow here, we're going to just hit execute workflow. And so that way we don't have to wait 15 minutes. So perfect. So this is exactly what happened. It got the rows from Supabase, and then it got the rows from the Google Drive. And from those, it's able to identify the file IDs. So, and then after that, it puts the file IDs into this compare datasets node. And here, it's able to identify the file IDs that are different. And then the file IDs that are different, it's going to be able to basically delete them. So if you go over to the Supabase, we can see that it just automatically updated right in front of us, right? So it just automatically deleted the line that said Ajax Agent Systems because that belonged to the file that I just deleted from my Google Drive. So as you can see, this workflow is also working perfectly. All right. Now, the last part of the workflow that we need to test is going to be the RAG part of it. Now, in order to test this, we're going to need to set up our VAPI webhook and hook it up with a tool that we will need to create for our assistant. Now, if you remember in our last video, we created the appointment setter using 4 tools. And now we need to add one more tool that's going to be responsible for this part of the workflow. So double click on this webhook, go to production URL, and click on this URL to copy it. Now we need to go back over to VAPI. And now let me ask you this question. What do we need to do now? I'm going to give you a couple seconds to see if you can figure it out. The answer is we need to create a new tool, and then we're going to pass in that URL into the server URL because that's going to be the connection between VAPI and n8n. So we're going to go over to tools, and then we're going to create a new tool. It's going to be a custom tool. Now this tool is going to be called Get User Documents, which makes sense because it's going to help with getting the user documents. So now go down to server URL and paste in the URL that we just copied. Save. Now notice this URL is different from the URL that we've been using in our other tools because it's linking to a different workflow. Perfect. So now all that there's left to do is to fill in the parameters. So this one's pretty simple. We just need to add a property that will be responsible for allowing the agent to find or to basically query the database to get company information. So obviously the easiest way to do that is click on Visual Editor and then go to the files that you have downloaded, which will be called Get User Documents tool. And then Control C to copy, Control A, Control V to paste, apply. And then if we uncheck, we can just see that it's literally just collecting a query, pretty simple stuff. Now we will hit save. Perfect. So now we have created our tool. Now I'm going to ask you another question. What do you think we're going to do next? So after we create the tool, we need to go over to the assistants and we need to give the tool to the assistant. So scroll down to the tool section. And then we need to click here and give it the tool that we just created. So hit publish to save. And now that we've given it all the tools that it needs, we need to go up to our system prompt and update the system prompt so that it knows how and when to use the get user documents tool. And the easiest way to do that is to just ask our AI assistant to do that. So go ahead and hit Control A, Control C to copy. Go over to Google AI Studio or whatever AI you like to use. I like to use this one. So I'm going to create a new chat. And like I say, I always like to set it to 0.4. That's perfect. Now, all I need to do is create a prompt that will hopefully get the information that I need. So here I'm going to say, give me the updated system prompt so that it, we'll say it smartly uses the get user documents tool in order to search the company documents for factual information for things like services provided or other company factual information. But the agent should also be smart enough to know not to use the tool when asked general questions that are not related to the company. Perfect. Here is the current system prompt. Change as little as possible to implement the new functionality. Okay. And I'm just going to let it run and we'll see what we get. So, all right, so now it is done loading. Let's go ahead and see what it got. So here we go. It says current time. That's fine. Honestly, I'll just copy it all and then we'll read it inside of there. So paste, publish, publish. All right, so it's saying that that's all the same. Where is it different? That's the question. Here, it's saying, do not deviate unless answering a direct factual question as outlined below. So it does look like it implemented some changes so that it could use the get user documents tool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually search get user documents to see exactly where it's using it. So it says factual question handling. If the user asks a factual question about the business, such as services offered, location, hours, policies, you must use the get user documents tool to find the answer. Honestly, that sounds like it would work. I'm willing to just give that a try. That looks fine. So we're just one final check to make sure everything's working. What we did was we created actually the assistant was already created, but we created a new tool called Get User Documents. After that, we went ahead and hooked it up to the assistant by going down to the Tools tab and feeding it in. So as you can see, there's 5 total tools, which is correct. Finally, we need to make sure that it's actually named correctly. So it needs to be called Get User Documents. Perfect. Now, the next thing is go over to n8n to just make sure that the VAPI webhook was correct. So if you remember, this is the correct path. That's right. And everything else should be properly set up. That looks fine. So now last thing to do is just hit save and then make sure that the workflow is set to active. Now I'm going to go ahead and give it a call and see what happens. So go over to VAPI, go to phone numbers, and now we can go ahead and call that phone number right here.
Thank you for calling the Glow Clinic. This is Chloe. How may I help you today? To best assist you, could you let me know if you are a new or an existing patient?
Hey, Chloe. By the way, what is your company name?
I apologize for the confusion. Our clinic is called the Glow Clinic. Now, to continue, are you a new or an existing patient?
Hey, Chloe, what is the purpose of your company?
I'm sorry, but can I assist with specific information about the Glow Clinic services?
All right, so after doing some testing, I found that the issue was since I was telling it that the business name was the Glow Clinic, but then here I was saying that the company name was something else, it was getting really confused. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to pass this over to the AI assistant to basically update the company information with some information that actually makes sense for our clinic. So go ahead and go back over here. Here is an example of company information for my personal company. I need you to give me updated company information similar to this, but for the med spa clinic that we were talking about, which is named the Glow Clinic. Okay. So yeah, we'll just let that run. All right, now it looks like it is done loading. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this information, go back over to the company documents and hit paste. Perfect. Now it should automatically update, but it does take a while to update. So I'd honestly rather just do it immediately and get it done. So I'm going to hit execute workflow. It worked. Perfect. I'm going to hit refresh. And there we go. So here it created the chunks. And remember, if the company information is long enough, then it will need to create a second chunk so that it becomes easier to find that information. So this is completely normal, and this is exactly what we want to happen. So that's perfect. Now all that there's left to do is to test it one more time to see if it's able to get the factual information. So here we go.
Thank you for calling the Glow Clinic. This is Chloe. How may I help you today? To best assist you, could you let me know if you are a new or an existing patient?
Yeah, hey Chloe, before we do that, can you just tell me what the purpose of the Glow Clinic is?
The Glow Clinic is a premier physician led med spa focused on personalized, non surgical aesthetic treatment. Our mission is to enhance your natural beauty and boost your confidence through safe, effective, and scientifically backed procedures. Now, to continue, are you a new or existing patient?
I'm good. That's all I needed. Thanks. Bye. All right, so as you can see, just by making those little changes, we were able to implement this RAG into the agent. So it was really simple. Let's do a quick recap of what we did. So the first thing that we did was we basically set up the entire workflow. Now, if you remember, it was really big at the start, but we ended up cutting it down into 3 different pieces. So the first piece was this one, actually, this one. This one was responsible for automatically deleting files in the Superbase database whenever a file was deleted in the Google Drive. Okay. Now, the second part of the workflow is this one, which is responsible for automatically updating the information in the Google Drive. And finally, the last piece is the RAG agent, which basically is a series of webhooks that collects data from the Get User Documents tool, and then it passes it into this AI agent, which basically tries to understand what the query is looking for, and then it'll basically look for the documents in the Superbase vector store in order to get the right information. Now, once it has synthesized that information, it's going to send it back over to our AI agent so that it can read you back that information. Okay. And the thing is, I didn't change any information regarding the appointment setting. So, I'm pretty sure 99% sure that's going to work, which is why I didn't bother testing it, but that's literally perfect. So literally in this video, you just saw me explain how to set up RAG for answering frequently asked questions for your company. It's really easy to do. And that actually concludes section 2, the clinic expert. In my next video, I'm going to be doing the seamless handoff. I'm going to teach you how to transfer the call to a live human in order to handle that call. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you hit subscribe. And by the way, my school community is where you'll be able to find all those documents. So go ahead and click YouTube prompts and templates, then click on whatever post I'm going to make, and then just click download to download. And if you have any questions, you can always come to the one-on-one support tab. You can ask whatever question you want, and I'll even build your workflows for you. Okay, that's how much I care and how much I want to help you out and make sure you succeed. So, all right, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.